Alright, so we all saw this coming. We all knew this day would come. It was inevitable. iDubbbz released a video that landed very poorly. Everybody hated it because it took very tone-deaf shots at Ethan Klein. Now, don't get me wrong, there are absolutely things that you can criticize Ethan Klein for. However, when it comes from iDubbbz, somebody who is now widely disrespected and known for being a soy loser, all of those criticisms really fall flat. So, what exactly occurred this time around? Creator Clash 3 is officially canceled. Now, this was completely expected. Nobody did not see this coming. I mean, let's be real here. The way that the situation was developing after the whole Ethan Klein content cop, it was inevitable. With all of the negative reputation that the event got after the fact, this was just bound to happen, especially when you take into consideration that so many people after that initial video started dropping like flies from the roster. We had the loss of Lena from H3H3, then we had the loss of Harley from Epic Mealtime, then we had the loss of a couple of other members, people that were largely uncomfortable with the fact that iDubbbz had now turned the event into something more politicized, as well as the fact that some people were just uncomfortable with communication. Freddie Wong, for example, was an individual that complained about iDubbbz not being able to properly communicate. iDubbbz in his video about concern trolling even made it very clear that he was a horrible communicator.
My main incentive for sharing this information is that I have felt extremely handcuffed by Creator Clash these past years because I'm not an expert communicator, and I don't know how to convey things, not over-communicate, not do all these things that potentially put the event at risk and put other people at risk. And that's kind of why I wanted to step away from this event. It feels like it's inhibiting my ability, like the business side of things, like inhibits my ability to communicate openly and effectively, especially when there's so many people counting on me to.
So what they did, after taking shots at people in the past for not knowing how to run an event, is that they essentially ran an event to the ground.
Commentary YouTubers have no idea what it is to work a normal job, let alone put on a whole event.
Well, it appears, given the last 2 years of failure, that neither iDubbbz nor Anisa knew how to run an event either. Besides the cathartic amount of satisfaction that we can get from them finally failing, that is not everything that has transpired in the last 24 hours. We have Dad, one of the main fighters, also speaking out against Anisa and iDubbbz in a very spectacular fashion, as well as the recent fallout going on Twitter that we have to get into. So stay tuned.
To make a content cop, he puts the thing out and he screws every single person. He screws Real Good Touring, all the business professionals who are making this event with him. Yeah. He screws me. He screws every other boxer. Yeah. Everyone was screwed from Ian's dumb video because he couldn't.
Thank you, Dad, for saying what had to be said.
Essentially, to give you the long and short of the Dad, aka Nathan video, as he's known on YouTube, the majority of the video, he's talking about how iDubbbz failed to actually manage this event in a way that would be beneficial to the people that were participating. He himself explains that he was really depending on this event to pay his bills. There are some criticisms to be made on Nathan here about how him as an adult should be responsible for his finances and probably pursue different forms of income, blah, 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 but that's neither here nor there. Nathan brings up a couple of concerns, such as the event managers not giving him his desired pay, instead giving somebody else their desired pay later along the lines, showcasing a little bit of favoritism. And then there comes this H3 clip that I showed you just now. Okay, so Nathan says that he puts this H3 content comp video out and he screws every single person that was depending on this Creator Clash event to succeed. Now, to be clear, that's probably not entirely the case. There were probably significant levels of mismanagement that took place before that video took place, before that content comp was ever conceived. This event was dead on arrival. To specifically blame it on the content cop is not necessarily the most fair thing in the world to do. However, that's not to say that iDubbbz is devoid of criticism. That's to say that iDubbbz deserves even more criticism beyond just blaming a simple video for ruining the event. Now, the reason why I say all of that before people start bringing in their comments about how, oh, iDubbbz actually ruined the event with that video, no. I'm trying to paint a much wider picture. If you actually pay attention to all of the stuff that's been going on around iDubbbz in the last couple of years, especially with stuff that he's been saying himself and how other people have complained about this event, there have been underlying issues far more important than just content cop creating a PR nightmare. If you actually are to watch the Dad video, you will notice that Dad was pretty concerned about his pay.
Creator Clash 3 this year didn't pay us the $20,000. They paid us the first 2 years. We were offered $15,000 this year. Then I heard through Harley, LA Beast got the 15 and then additional 7,000. And I was like, what the heck, dude? I just talked on the phone for an hour months ago and got convinced to do this because I was told everyone was getting paid the same thing. Now someone's getting 7,000. I reached out, I was like, can I get that 7,000? Answer was no. Answer was, okay, we can get you a brand deal. That's not happening now. LA Beats makes more than us. He makes out with more money. I'm in 3 of these freaking things. And I'm not blaming LA Beast. He got what he got because he asked for it. Why the heck did I not get it when I asked for it in the very, very beginning before the thing was even announced?
He is concerned about how other people are being paid higher. If you go back to some comments that Harley Morenstein has said in previous podcasts, he himself is also concerned about his pay. Why is it that some people are being paid unevenly and some other people are being paid more? You can tell that a lot of people that were competing in this event were heavily demotivated, and the Content Cop reputational hit only served to demotivate these people even more, thus leading to a bunch of drops. A lot of people will utilize the Content Cop to essentially point and laugh at and give all their attention to how bad that was, but the reality is that these problems are a lot larger than just one simple video. And to clarify, these burdens and these problems were not caused exclusively by Ian and Anisa. Even Nate, even Dad himself goes on to clarify that there were a couple of other event managers and organizers that were telling them what was going to go down, the money that they were expected to earn, the money that they were going to be paid. So to say that Ian and Anisa here are specifically the only ones to be blamed for this situation is not entirely fair. There needs to be a lot more scrutiny across the board for this stuff. Also, a little bit of a side tangent, a little bit of another point to make. A lot of people will parade this L as being like the monumental failure that iDubbbz and Anisa finally got to bite dirt on, but that's not necessarily the case. For those of you who have been paying attention closely and following this story for the last couple of months, you would come to find out that Ian and Anisa have actually made out of this situation entirely unscathed. As far as we know, based on the information available, they didn't take a huge financial burden or loss from the failure of this event. They set up this event to not be very impactful to them, per their own words. So even if this event did fail, the likelihood of them struggling financially from it or taking a huge loss from it is not entirely known, at least not yet. But this is entirely speculatory, so take what I'm saying with a grain of salt. On a funny little side note, however, Anisa finally changed her pinned tweet, which was a huge contentious topic for a while as well, to continue to throw shade at Ethan Klein, trying to utilize an old screenshot of his comment against him, as if people can't change their minds within a year's time. There's really not much to say about a situation like this other than it is really unfortunate that an event like this would fail spectacularly and that there will be an incredibly negative cloud looming around this situation for months, if not years to come, depending on what they do with this IP. It is incredibly unfortunate the way that they treated all of these individuals, especially Nathan, who has recently come out and said that they were trash talked behind the scenes by Anisa and Ian.
Because I'm upset. It sucks. I put my heart into this. I got freaking beat hard this year, harder than I ever had. And I thought, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna train like a freaking professional. Keep my head down, avoid this drama, and now here I am, screwed.
At this point, I just started getting too worked up, so I'm now just ending the video. When I filmed this, I just sort of spilled my guts and got kind of worked up. Then I remembered more things I wanted to say, and I tried to compose myself a little bit better, so the video's a bit wild. The last thing I want to say is that I always tried to be respectful of them, publicly and personally, when I was talking to them. I've always given them the benefit of the doubt and never really wanted to place blame on them or anyone. And then it turns out they were just talking trash about me behind my back. Ian's coach said on H3 that they used to say I was weird and talk trash about me, and then I also heard the same thing from Froggy Fresh 2 years ago.
It really goes to show that Ian is a quote-unquote husk of his former self, and that Anisa is just a snake that only serves to ruin everything she touches. Me personally, I wouldn't go as far as to make a claim as extreme as that, or to make an insult as egregious as that. Other people will. But no matter which way you turn a situation like this, it just doesn't look good, especially when you take a look at her Twitter, especially when you take a look at every single own that she's been trying to grasp for the last couple of months. These people are just pathetic losers that only serve to upset everybody around them.
People into having some sympathy for the fighters and maybe put a positive spin on all this and get people motivated to support the event, I thought I would go on Keemstar's podcast. And Keemstar has an audience who actually watches YouTube boxing. But before I could go on the podcast, Ian saw a thumbnail Keem posted with my face on it saying I was going on his podcast. So Ian calls me and says, we'd rather you not go on his podcast because we don't know what he's going to say. I said to Ian, it doesn't really matter what Keemstar says because he's going to talk trash about the event regardless, whether I go on the podcast or not. If I go on, maybe I could at least combat that and try to sway some people and defend the event and make people kind of feel some sympathy for me and the other fighters and possibly turn the tides and get people to come around on this. Ultimately, I told Ian I wouldn't go on the podcast because now I'm thinking I'm rocking the boat. I don't want to make people upset. I don't want to get Ian and Anisa to kick me off Creator Clash because I'm being controversial or I'm stirring the pot and causing problems.
It's also really interesting and really disgusting to think that these people had the audacity to be controlling what any of these people do with their free time, with their attempts to market, or with their attempts to rebuild any sort of positive PR. It's absolutely mind-boggling that these people even believe they have an ounce of privilege to have an input on the actions of other people.
So I went to an H3 live stream and donated $20 and left a comment to try and say something positive. I also said I was bummed about the Content Cop video and confused on how to move forward. Then the next day, Anisa texts me a screen grab of my donation and she says, is this real? Anisa took that as I was supporting her enemy that she has chosen, by the way. Ethan and H3 are not my enemy. So then Anisa makes me feel guilty and bad for what I thought was a nice thing. And she's like, oh, I can't believe you would do that. I'm 44 freaking years old. This is childhood, high school garbage. What the heck are you doing? I was texting Yoda, my friend, about this, and I said, I think I'm gonna walk. I'm not dealing with her. I can't do this right now. I almost quit when she called me because Harley was out. I was talking to Harley. Harley was talking about his frustrations. I was saying, yeah, Anisa just called me. She tells me, this really hurts us that you would say this. Because in the donation, I said, this is really confusing for all of us. I don't know why they put that video out. It hurts you that I said I'm confused why you're ruining the event? What are you talking about? It hurts you more that you put your video out, not me being upset about it. Oh, I burned a building down. Now everyone's complaining, and it really hurts me that everyone's complaining about my fire I caused. What the heck are you talking about?
If there's anything that is absolutely true about Ian and Anisa, is that these people are so self-conscious, so insecure, so pathetic that they can't help but to go out of their way to control the emotions of another person, that they can't help but be attacked just for somebody trying to express some sort of empathy to somebody that they have deemed their competitor. They have deemed their enemy. And to be clear, just to give a little bit of an impartial opinion, to give a little bit of impartial fairness to Ian and Anisa, Ethan Klein doesn't really reserve the right to expect anything from them, but I do understand why he would be conflicted that they would rather associate and talk shit behind his back to people that Ethan Klein has considered their enemies for a long time. And I definitely do understand this sort of rivalry that they have, but still, to essentially force somebody to not have a positive opinion of somebody, given the negative stuff that they've gone through, is pretty underhanded and gross to do. Ethan Klein isn't a saint either. He deserves a lot of criticism. He's done his own fair share of terrible things that absolutely deserve a lot of scrutiny and a lot of attention. But when we're focusing on Ian and Anisa specifically, the type of behavior that they've engaged in, and the way that that behavior has affected other people in regards to an event like this, definitely deserves its own conversation. But anyways, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.